Hi, everybody, and welcome to Drag Racing 1999. Alan Reinhardt along with Bob Fry as we take a look back. In Top Fuel, it was the closest points battle in history, with 8 guys still alive as it came down to the wire. Who would win it? Well, we all know who'd win it, but let's take a look and see how they got there. Pomona, California, AutoZone Winter Nationals. Right from qualifying, we knew this was going to be a special year.
Mike Dunn and Team Mopar over on the far side of the race course during qualifying would set this field, this track, and yes, the sport on its ear with a spectacular pass of 4.503, good for the top qualifying spot and lowered the national record.
Did use up some parts and pieces, as you could see on the run, but hey, when you're setting national records, you got to expect to break a couple of parts.
We broke a couple of hearts, too. Joe Amato failed to qualify for his first race in almost 3 years, and that would plague him at the end of the season.
Gary Scelzi, round number 1, out of here. It only happened twice in the last 2 years, but that would become a theme here in 1999.
And in the finals, there's that Mike Dunn, Darrell Gwynn, the Team Mopar machine. They would line up against former Winter Nationals champ Larry Dixon in the Miller Light car, owned by Don Prudhomme, tuned at this time by Dale Armstrong. Race was held over till Monday because of the bad weather on the weekend. Watch that baby fly. Mike Dunn would punctuate his #1 qualifying spot, blow the engine up, but he would set the record, leave the track with the record and the points lead. Alan caught up with him.
You qualified #1, you got the national record, you got the points lead, and you got the trophy. What's left?
It don't get much better than this, does it? Guess I'll have to go to Disneyland.
Well, you're close. It's just down the street. The Mopar gang would celebrate, and they would have the points lead for a long time. 400 miles east, Firebird International Raceway, just outside Phoenix, Arizona, the second stop on the tour.
Tony Schumacher in the near lane, but one of the few times he would not be the highlight. Watch Randy Parks. One of the nasty Top Fuel blowovers in the Fluke Ride and Decals machine, starting out his season the hard way. He would come back, bring a backup car out, and race it the very next day.
All right, you want a Tony Schumacher highlight? About time for one, isn't it? Check this out. Team X side, Dan Olson, the crew chief. They would stun the drag racing world up against David Grubnick, round 1 of elimination. Not only winning the race, but that still holds as the fastest run of all times, 330 miles an hour across the desert. Pretty good day for Shu.
A spectacular day. He would not make it till the finals, however. Joe Amato, who didn't qualify at Pomona, makes it to the finals against Kenny Bernstein. A big race for both of these guys. Lee Beard turning the wrenches on the Budweiser King. 20 years for Kenny, for the folks from Anheuser-Busch.
You saw Kenny's car haze the tires a little bit in the middle, and for Amato, that's not a bad way to bounce back. Bob was there.
It's amazing, Joe. You go from a DNQ a couple of weeks ago to top of the world today.
God is good, man. He took care of us, you know. It proves the hard work pays off, you know. But for Keystone Automotive, Tenneco Automotive, Valvoline, Van Model 8, Bendix, PPG, all the guys that support this car, they're the ones that get the credit. But my team, I can't say enough about Jimmy Prock and the guys, you know. They worked hard, not a lot of hours, a lot of nights. My son sets home with Seppi Lovey. He told me to kick butt in the final, and we did, boy.
Yes, they did. Mike Dunn continues to lead the points. Bernstein, with his semifinal finish, moves up to second. You notice Scelzi's not on that list? First round, he was out of here again. That's 2 straight races.
Joe would be our first victim of the winner's curse. Win one race, out round 1 the next race, like in the Mac Tools Gator Nationals. The folks from R.J. Reynolds had the Winston No Bull Challenge in effect in '99. Get an opportunity to draw the lucky ball. If you're the driver in the fuel category, you would run for $100,000. Doug Herbert's name was pulled out down in Gainesville, Florida at the Mac Tools race. The Snap-on Tools car got a chance to run against Larry Dixon in the semis. Does he even have a chance to go for the $100,000 in the final? Herbert in the far lane, Dixon in the near lane. Kind of like a $50,000 run here.
It was the first time anyone would get this close, as Dixon had troubles, and Herbert went to the final round with an extra $100,000 on the table. In 4:55, that would win you a lot of races. In that final round, he would come up against Mike Dunn, the Team Mopar car, leading the points, looking for his second win on the season. Darrell Gwynn, who lives just down the street in Miami, trying to win one for the home crowd. They don't care about Herbert's 100 grand. You notice you didn't see Herbert out the side of Mike Dunn's car? Neither did Mike. He wins the race, Herbert loses the 100.
I'll tell you, it's a great win for this Team Mopar. I can't say enough about this. You know, somebody asked me the other day if I ever had a race car like this, and I said, yeah. When I was about 12 years old playing with the Matchbox cars, I dreamed of having a car like this. Hey, are we bad? We bad.
You guys are bad, and right then is when Mike promised to buy his daughter a Viper. Houston, Texas, next stop on the tour as the Top Fuel cars came roaring into town.
Number 6, Doug Herbert.
You heard Dave McClellan say it. Second straight race, Doug Herbert gets drawn for the No Bull Challenge.
A lot of the highlights this year happened in qualifying. Del Coletta in the far lane, Larry Dixon in the near lane, and the Miller Lite car from MBNA on this very fast Houston track. And watch this baby fly. The first sub 450 run in NHRA drag racing history.
I mean, I don't even know what to say. I'm just thrilled to death to be driving this car. I mean, Dale Armstrong, those guys work their tails off. I just get to drive it. You know, they make the power. So I'm just thrilled to death for the Miller team.
Another guy that didn't know what to say in Houston, Team Winston's Gary Scelzi. 3 straight first-round losses, and then it got worse. A DNQ, the first of his career down in Houston.
That winner's curse we told you about. Win one race, out early next race. Ta-da! Mike Dunn, Team Mopar, gone after just one round at Houston Raceway Park. Tony Schumacher would advance into the championship round, taking on Doug Herbert. Herbert, little deja vu, $100,000 worth. Let it get away in Gainesville. Chance to win it right here. 6 figures riding on the Snap-on car in the far lane.
Schumacher blazed the tires, and Doug Herbert picks up the win, picks up the trophy, picks up 100,000 extra bucks. You think these guys are pumped?
I can't believe it took us 2 races. I'll tell you what, all the guys at RJR, this is great. They put up this for us, and I've got a lot of support for Snap-on Tools the last few years. Well, we've been struggling, but I'll tell you what, with Dick LaHaye and Larry Frazier and all these guys in this team, I'm losing my voice. There's nobody that's any better, I guarantee you. I just got to do my job. Maybe, hopefully, I can get better.
These guys must have known you were going to win it. The jacket's an extra large.
All right, that's good. Like they said if I didn't, well, just like you said, if I didn't win it the second time, I wasn't getting another chance.
Can't let those things slip away, Doug. Herbert, on the strength of 2 straight final rounds, moves into second place, but Mike Dunn holds on to the lead after 4 races. Be a hot time in old Cherryville, North Carolina tonight. With 100 grand, you can invite the whole town over. Just down the street, Dallas, Texas, the Texas Motorplex.
Hey, we got that curse again. Doug, you won 100 grand last week. Not so happy here this week, because after round 1, all together now, out of here. Mike Dunn and Team Mopar out in round number 2 to the Excite car of Tony Schumacher. Gary Scelzi gets past round number 1, and he's gone to the finals after taking out Corey Mack in the semis.
Here is the final. Scelzi far side, Doug Coletta in the near lane. First time Gary's been around past lunch all year. And how's that for a way to bounce back after a DNQ? 456, 319. Gary Scelzi wins one. Finally.
I wanted to win so bad. It's almost like my first final. It's a real jittery feeling, and maybe if I get 10 or 11 more of these finals, I'll get used to it again.
Now that was good! All right. Gary.
That was a whole lot better than the year they'd had so far. Richmond, Virginia, Pennzoil Nationals, presented by Track Auto.
I know it's coming up, and you probably do too. How about that winner's curse? Gary Scelzi, Team 1. little turnabouts, fair play. He would take on Doug Herbert. Sorry, Gary, we can't let you win 2 in a row. Herbert goes 480, a time you wouldn't expect to win, but it did. There's that old curse again.
Semifinals, we had a battle of the breweries, which would become a theme this year. Larry Dixon for Miller Lite, Kenny Bernstein for Budweiser. This one goes to the Miller car, 465-306, and Dixon's headed for the final.
All that remained to be seen would be the final round opponent. Jerry Gwynn out in front, encouraging his driver, Mike Dunn. Hey, we've won 2. Let's put the 3rd one up on the board. They would have Corey Mack, the MBNA car from Joe Gibbs Stables, in the other lane, and Corey loves this racetrack. Corey loves beating Mike Dunn. 471 got the job done. 294, and it put the 2 guys from the coast, Corey McClenathan and Larry Dixon, against each other in the championship round. Corey loves this racetrack. He's won 2 of the previous 4 years here in Virginia.
Make that 3 out of 5 as Dixon goes up in smoke and Corey Mack wins another one here in Richmond. He loves this place.
How about it, huh, boy? She got in high gear out there and she was trucking, man. What a race. Hey, nice job, thanks, bud. Appreciate it. Okay. I'll tell you, though, you know, come here and win the Pennzoil Nationals. I mean, that's the best way to do it.
Now remember, Dixon said my turn next time, and Corey said okay. Mike Dunn stays on top, and Dixon is shuffled into the number 2 spot. This was the story all year long.
Mike Green right there, the crew chief at that point for the MBNA car. We were swinging to Atlanta, Georgia, with an opportunity to see if that winner's curse would be in effect again, and that's oil, that must be. Yep, Corey Mack, round 1. See ya. This is starting to get downright spooky.
It's almost like you don't want to win. Well, maybe that's not it. Doug Coletta, Kenny Bernstein, round 1. Watch the butt cake. You see that tire? That was Kenny's tire. The right rear tire exited the Bud King, sent it on its side and into the wall. Kenny was unhurt, but his day was done.
Well, the car left, had the front end up. I thought we were really looking pretty good. I was pretty excited, and then it shook real hard. Vibration came in and just completely blurred the vision, took it away. But at the same instant that happened, then the car made a turn, just turned right, just hard. And then you're just a rider. You just hang on, and I saw the wall coming towards me, and I knew I was going to hit it with the top of the roll cage, and that's a little scary. But the car did good. The safety on the car with the Murph McKinney car, and you know, the fact of NHRA safety that they make us put in these things, plus what my crew chief Lee Beard and the crew does, everything's fine.
Hey, makes an oil leak look like not such a big thing after a while. Semifinals, Gary Scelzi, Mike Dunn. Dunn still the points leader. Scelzi starting to heat up and trying to move up in points. And Scelzi would hold on for the win by just about that much. Move into the finals against the guy who just was lucky enough to dodge Kenny Bernstein in that earlier incident, Doug Coletta.
Lucky? Come on, Doug's a sprint car driver. You think he doesn't know how to go around somebody that's sliding on their side? He's done that 1,000 times. You saw the red light for Doug Coletta, and Gary Scelzi wins his 2nd race of the year. Team Winston is warming up.
This 5-disc clutch has thrown us a lot of curves. Team Winston spent a lot of sleepless nights, and they're probably not over yet, but it looks like we got a pretty good handle, and we were lucky when we needed it. You know, Doug Coletta and Ed McCullough. That's a tough team. They liable to be like Mike Dunn pretty soon and start whipping them big. Congratulations. All right, guys. Right on, buddy. Way to go.
If only I had a quarter for every time one of those racers down there said we think we got a handle on it. Mopar Parts Nationals, Englishtown, New Jersey, Bob Fry's backyard.
Yeah, but I wasn't bragging about that this weekend as we had some bad weather and actually held this race over. The curse was broken of sorts. Scelzi got past round 1 and beat a little bit later on today. Round 2, Joe Amato and Mike Dunn. Where's Joe? There he is. Got right by him at the quarter-mile mark, and Joe Amato would take on Mr. $100,000 richer Doug Herbert in his third final of the year.
Herbert starting to make a habit out of the final rounds, but Joe Amato claims this racetrack and the one in Reading as home for him. Herbert up in smoke, and Amato wins one in his backyard. He was definitely taking credit for this place.
Herbert's a tough guy. Last he owed me one. He told me before. Last time I gave him a win late, so he gave me one back. Thanks, buddy. It's always a tough team to race against, but can't say enough. Englishtown, hometown crowd, plus this puts us back into points chase a little bit. That was a big thing for us to make a move. You know, the car, we've been struggling with the car. We're finally getting this car sorted out. I'm confident with it now. Jimmy Prock and my boys, they did a great job.
Well, you might be back in the chase a little bit, Joe, but you're still not in the top 5 after 8 of 22. Mike Dunn trying to take it wire to wire, and it's been a while since anybody's done that. The Fram Route 66 Nationals, Joliet, Illinois, just outside Chicago, a spectacular facility for anything.
How about that winner's curse? How about Randy Parks, who had a blowover earlier in the year, and Joe Amato won the last race? Out of it right here. A lot of parts and stuff coming off of Randy's car, but at least all 4 wheels are on the ground.
Mike Dunn would pull up against Kenny Bernstein in the final. Bernstein second in the points. He has been consistent. He has not won a race yet. As we rolled into Chicago, he was not going to win this one either. How about those Mopar guys? 470 and 316, not spectacular numbers, but they're stretching out that points lead. Yeah, Mike, celebrate. Have a good time. Mike Dunn tried to pick up on the Ron Capps tradition of tackling the announcer at the end of the racetrack. Didn't go quite so well for Mike. Watch. He hits the ground first. I love it when a plan comes together.
I wasn't as good as Capps, but...
You're right. You weren't as good as Capps.
Coming off his 19th win of his career, Mike Dunn would sail into Columbus, Ohio for the Pontiac Excitement Nationals. And guess what? There was a curse waiting for him. Actually, there was David Grubnick waiting for him, and David, the Australian, took Mike out in the opening round of competition. Corey Mack out in round 1 to Larry Dixon. 3 races in a row, Corey has not gotten past the opening round. And speaking of Dixon, in the second stanza, he would meet up with the CarQuest machine of Paul Romine under the watchful eye of Clayton Harris. And you say upset? Great win right there for Paul Romine at a 480.
Herbert and Selzy, semi-final. Selzy trying to get back on track. Herbert seems like a final round fixture. Herbert goes to his 4th final round of the year. That Snap-on team loving life. Remember, Doug got his first ever NHRA win at this racetrack just a couple of years ago.
He wasn't running for $100,000, but he was running for a chance to move up in the points. It would be Bob Vandergrift Jr., winless in his Top Fuel career, but oh so close, trying to stop him. It would not happen. Doug Herbert gets another win. 469, put him in the winner's circle, and made him a solid number 2 in the points chase.
Oh, man, I'll tell you what, we did good picking up on Dunn and them guys. They're tough, but we'll be here till the end, I think. LaHaye's just getting on a roll now.
LaHaye was getting on a roll, and Mike Dunn probably starting to feel a little bit of heat as all the shuffling going on in the points after 10 of 22 races. For the Snap-on team, it was celebration time before they had to hit the road. Next stop, Madison, Illinois, Sears Craftsman Nationals.
And the celebrating would stop for Doug Herbert right here. In fact, he would probably be taking this curse a little bit too far. He would have the Bud King in the other lane in round 1. Kenny Bernstein would get the win. Herbert would go the next 6 races without winning a single round. That's a nasty curse.
Mike Dunn, the Mopar team, also out in round number 1. The points leader goes down to Dixon, and that left the door open for some of the other guys.
The Bud King in the far lane. There's that Schumacher kid in the Exide batteries machine. Haven't heard much from him since that 3:30 sprint in the desert. Actually out-pedaled the King of speed. And the kid of speed, Tony Schumacher, wins it with a cushy 2:55 top-end charge.
Wasn't fast, but it was exciting. Gary Scelzi for Team Winston back in the final. Tony Schumacher's been in the top 5 of the points all year, has never won a race in his career. Would today be the day? I don't think so, Tony. Check out the vapor trails off the wing of the Team Winston car racing into the humidity at about 3 o'clock in the morning as the Winston guys celebrate.
I'll tell you what, I'm so excited to be with NHRA and Winston Drag Racing. It's the best motorsports in the business. And my guys, I mean, it's 2 in the morning or 2:15 or whatever it is. They work so hard. We changed 5 motors or 6 motors this weekend. They worked their tails off. They didn't miss a beat. I mean, Team Winston is just incredible. I'm speechless. It's pretty emotional for me now because this Winston Championship's really, it's something. Matco Tools, NGK Spark Plugs, Martin Senior Paint, Napa Auto Parts. I love you all. Mom, I'll be home tomorrow. This is awesome.
You gotta love a guy that stands on there and talks for 5 minutes and then says, oh, by the way, I'm speechless. What, are you kidding me?
The track in Thunder Valley, Bristol, Tennessee, and that tower had been there since the late 1960s. Bruton Smith and his gang came in and built a spectacular new racetrack. A facility so unique it called for something a bit different. What do you say we run top fuelers against the funny cars?
John, what do you think of this handicap format?
I think they could take it away if they'd strap 200 or 300 pounds on them dragsters.
I don't think it's that big a deal racing them funny cars. You know, it's just like a Saturday night bracket race, only our cars are a lot faster.
The hardest part for me is when they're out on you, you can't hear your own car, so it kind of distracts you a little bit, but it's still a lot of fun.
I love it. You can't beat it. I wouldn't want to be the dragster guys, I'll put it that way.
Obviously, in this handicap format, the funny cars were going to leave first. Let's take a look at third round action. They had 12 and 12, raced 5 rounds on Sunday. This was just cool. Tommy Johnson Jr. had taken over the interstate car from Cruz Pedregon already at this part of the season. Bob Vandergrift was the #1 qualifier for the dragster guys. This is how the system works. Pretty good old drag race. Vandergrift nips him at the end, 4:58, the winning time.
And then, John, I vote for throwing more weight on those top fuelers instead of a head start. Force would go up against Bob Vandergrift Jr. Vandergrift in the Jersey's activewear. John Force in his Superman activewear. Special one-race dress-up for the 8-time Winston champ. $200,000 on the line. And nobody, well, hardly anybody, ever wins a pedaling contest with John Force, and he really is Superman.
I'm really excited Winston put up this 200 grand or better, and Bruton Smith just built this beautiful racetrack. Unbelievable in what he's done to help NHRA and Castle and Ford and Mac Tool, all my people. This is probably the biggest day of my life. I don't have to go to Top Fuel. I can stay here where I love funny cars. It's unbelievable. But I want to say something. Dragsters may be king of the sport, but funny cars ruled here this weekend at Bristol. Yes! Yes! God! Yes!
Think he was having a good time?
Ever!
Hey, Vandergrift, if you ever have to race Superman again, bring Kryptonite. On to Denver, the Mopar Parks Mile High Nationals and the spectacular Vandermeer Raceway carved into the side of the mountain, and things were just warming up.
Yep, Gary Scelzi, the curse. Hey, take 2 aspirin and call me in the morning. Out in round 1 against Kenny Bernstein. Mike Dunn, 3rd race in a row. Out in the opening round, he lost to Jim Head in the Checker Shucks Cragen car. Round 2, Tony Schumacher, the red-hot kid in the Exide car, against Doug Coletta, who took out Corey Mack in the semis. Good old drag race top end. Doug Coletta just got the win, 479. He would take on Joe Amato. Amato mentioned that he loves running in Englishtown. Jimmy Crock has worked some pretty good magic up here, too. Amato has won 4 times already here on the mountain.
And why don't we make it 5? Another one from the It Wasn't Pretty, but it got the job done file. Joe Amato, king of the mountain. Mike Dunn still leading the points. Kenny Bernstein closing in. Schumacher sneaks into the top 5, and notice, still haven't seen Gary Selzy on that list all year. On to Seattle, the Prolong Super Lubricant Northwest Nationals. And no, that's not the racetrack. That's the ferry boat where Larry Dixon, Corey McLenithan, and Doug Herbert all were Sunday afternoon because first round, they were out of here. Repeat, final round in Denver. Joe Amato taking on Doug Coletta. Coletta's 4th final of the year, looking for his first win. Not yet, Doug. Amato goes 2 for 2 to start the Western swing. 470, 306 miles an hour. Not bad. Not bad.
Yeah, but Joe knew what was waiting for him on the other side of the bridge from San Francisco. Sears Point International Raceway. The Dynamax machine under the watchful eye of Jimmy Prock. Round number 1. He said, I can beat this curse. I can beat this curse. No, you can't. No, you can't. Mike Dunn took him out with a great 467, but Mike Dunn wasn't around in the final round. Tony Schumacher was, and hey, here's that Coletta kid again in the finals. Ed McCullough saying, hey, you won this last year. You can win it again this year.
Doug Coletta has never been beaten at this racetrack. Still. Tony Schumacher bombs one in the lights, but Doug Coletta doesn't care. He's picked up his 2nd career win. Same racetrack where he won the first one. On to Brainerd, Minnesota, the Colonel's Truck Accessories Nationals up in the great North Central country. Scott Coletta, we hadn't seen him for a while, came out to be a blocker for cousin Doug as Doug was starting to make some noise in the points. Round number 2, they were supposed to run each other. Scott shut off on the starting line. What a shocker. Gave Doug a free shot into the semifinals. It would not be the last we'd hear of Scott all year.
We have not heard a lot from Eddie Hill this year. The 93 Winston champion would come into Brainerd International Raceway and take out Kenny Bernstein in the opening round. Get that kid, Tony Schumacher, to foul out in the 2nd round. And then advance into the championship round against Larry Dixon. Ursi Hill sends her husband with that Pennzoil car into battle, looking to win for the first time in a long while. Dixon also winless on the 99 campaign. Great final round. Eddie had him covered till the engine breaks. Blower belt comes off. Dixon gets his 7th win of his career and 1st of the year.
And the celebration was on at Camp Miller Lite. Come on, guys, high five or something, would you? There is the Colonel himself, just off to the right side, getting ready to hand the trophy to Larry Dixon. Mike Dunn, even though he lost in round number 1, holds on to the points lead. Are you believing this? It's like nobody wants to take over the Top Fuel chase.
Come on, brother. Yeah! I got it. Yeah!
Then it was on to Indianapolis, the U.S. Nationals, the granddaddy of them all. Race 16 on the circuit, and this is where the lucky number 7 comes into play. Well, maybe not lucky. It's been 7 races since Mike Dunn last notched a victory, while the defending Winston champion Gary Selzy has been to 7 finals since winning here a year ago. Joe Amato has the most wins on the year. He's got 4, but he's also gone out in the first round 7 times, while Mr. Consistency Kenny Bernstein has been the 2nd place man on 7 occasions. Tony Schumacher, the current king of speed, has been the fastest Top Fuel car 7 times this season. And sophomore sensation Doug Coletta, he's been in 7 final rounds in his brief career, scoring 2 wins, both in Sonoma. Finally, consider this. The most recent national event winner, Larry Dixon, who carries the number 7, he's won 7 times in his career and drives for 7-time Indy winner Don Prudhomme.
Ooh, spooky. Larry Dixon never got to make it to the first round. He never even got to have a chance to laugh in the face of that curse. He didn't qualify. He got to sit and talk to Kenny Bernstein. The King of Speed also failed to qualify for the U.S. Nationals. While they were out, how about Andrew Cowan, young kid from Australia, makes it to round number 1 against former Indy champion Joe Amato.
Amato driving his Superman-themed car. Remember, John Force's Superman car won Bristol. Joe Amato's is out early in Indy. Cowan runs 4:56, career numbers for the kid, and stops the number 1 qualifier.
Mike Dunn, who has led the points since Pomona, would meet up with Tony Schumacher in the Excite car in a monster matchup in round number 1. The Excite car and Tony Schumacher would take the win and the points lead. And for the first time in '99, somebody besides Mike Dunn and Team Mopar was the leader in the clubhouse.
But Schumacher and the Excite gang were not finished yet. In the semifinals, they matched up with Corey McLenathan for Team MBNA. Corey won this race in 1996, wanted his second one. Well, at least he got to the second final. Schumacher will leave Indy with the points lead. And Corey would run one of these guys in the final.
For Jersey's activewear machine, who lost the final at Indy a couple of years ago when his parachute came out at half track, trying to go back to the money run. He's got that pesky kid from Australia in the near lane. He would also have the best seat in the house to watch that pesky kid in the near lane get the win. And Andrew Cowan goes to the finals at the biggest race here in the States.
Get your hat off, son.
Andrew Cowan and Corey McLenathan for all the marbles at Indianapolis and the U.S. Nationals.
Corey, one of the big-time hitters for the last 5 years. Andrew Cowan, in just his first season and only a part-timer in NHRA and for Cinderella. I don't know how to break this to you, kid, but you hear that noise in the background? That would be the clock striking midnight. Corey Mack picks up his second U.S. Nationals title. The MBNA gang celebrates on the starting line. And Corey doesn't even wait for the car to stop before he starts the celebration.
You love to see a happy winner. Tony Schumacher loves seeing his name at the top of the leaderboard. Look at Selzy into the number 3 spot.
We're not going to be playing Waltzing Matilda in the winner's circle today because this day belonged to Corey Mack from start to finish.
Indy, yes! Oh, God, I'll tell you. Fantastic. I'll tell you. The people that work on this car have worked so hard for this, and they deserve it. And that's the boys on the team.
On to the True Value Keystone Nationals, Reading, Pennsylvania, the other one of Joe Amato's hometown racetracks that, oh, by the way, Joe has never won.
Corey Mack coming off that big Indy win, and guess what we had in store for him in round 1? Well, besides Tony Schumacher, a first round, I got the curse, loss. Round 2, Scott Coletta still trying to help his cousin Doug. Would have Mike Dunn and Team Mopar in the other lane. Scott would beat Mike, break a motor, help his cousin Doug, have a wild ride at the end of the track, and all of the above.
No problem. The Kitty Hawk team had that car repaired in plenty of time to come back in the semis and face off against Joe Amato. But for Scott, his day was about to end. Wheels up, wheels down. Amato goes to the final, 462, 307. And all he's got to do to finally win his hometown race is outrun the fastest man in the sport, the Excite car of Tony Schumacher.
Dan Olson, the crew chief for this Excite car, had this machine flying all season long. They are the points leader at Maple Grove. Joe Amato is going to get the win his first ever here in Pennsylvania, the 50th of his great drag racing career, and Joe's a player for the title.
To win the Keystone Nationals in front of the hometown crowd, that's just something we've been only trying for 15 years. It made me plenty nervous. You know, Schumacher's a tough team out there, and for the NHRA Winston World Championship, this puts us in pretty good state. You're tough.
On to Topeka, Kansas, the Advance Auto Parts Nationals. Can you say cold? I mean cold when we rolled into Topeka. Qualifying, Selzy, Dixon. Watch Selzy in the near lane. This was not a great weekend for Team Winston. Bangs the motor, blows the tire, car all over the racetrack. It was bad enough that they had to bring out a backup car, twisted the frame rails on the back of that machine. Now, the rules say you are allowed to run a backup car. Thought that was bad? This is the next day. That used to be the backup car. Drag racers, however, don't know how to quit. Frank Parks, Neal & Parks Chassis Shop, is just down the road. Brad Hadman, the car builder that built that chassis, was there. They repaired the second wreck and came back for elimination.
Amazing, they made it to the semifinals. At this point, everybody figured they were going to win the race and be a storybook finish, but it was not to be. Joe Amato would take his Maple Grove winning car into the final round against Doug Herbert. Joe on the season 5-0 in final rounds. And then 5-1. Doug Herbert with a 466 gets the win. His first win since Columbus. Took him 7 races to shake that nasty curse.
Now, let's not get back to that nasty 7 stuff. AutoZone Nationals in Memphis, Tennessee. Only 2 qualifying sessions because of weather problems all weekend, and Mike Dunn did not qualify. A serious blow to his hopes of recapturing the points lead. But you think he was disappointed. Gary Selzy, after round 1, a huge hole shot where he said, quote, "The driver went brain dead. The team did their job. The driver let him down."
Corey Mack, the Indy champ, also out at round number 1 to Eddie Hill. And Joe Amato in round number 2 to a guy from Tennessee. I guess he calls this his home track, Terry Mullins, and Joe was gone.
Let's take a look at the points leader, Tony Schumacher, taking on Kenny Bernstein's Bud King. Now, Bernstein's going to win the race, but that's not the story. That's the story. A blown tire takes the wing off, turns the car on its side, and bounces it off the walls. Now, the rules say if you crash a car in qualifying, you can roll out a backup car. But if you crash a car on race day, you'd have to fix that car. And in the 90 minutes allowed between rounds, there was no fixing that Bud King. Watch again in slow motion. The tire comes off, the wing comes off. Kenny was not hurt in the incident.
I'm fine. I'm disappointed. The boys did a great job, and, you know, we won the race, I think. But it's tough, and I hate it for the Lee Beard and Mike and the whole boys of the Bud team, Pro on Mac, our sponsors, because, I mean, we need to win that round. We need to go on and win this race, and now we don't have a chance to today. That's a shame. But, hey, you do what you do. That's all we can do.
And it was a tough break for the King of Speed. It would send Doug Herbert into the final, looking to go back-to-back. He's got Jim Head, that Checker Shucks Cragen car in the other lane. Head hadn't been the quickest all day, but he made it to the final.
Smoke him if you got him.
Couple of tire smokers, but Doug Herbert recovers, gets there first, 563 at only 261, but he is the winner. Schumacher stays in the points lead. Amato closing the gap. Selzy, Herbert, and the King, despite that nasty incident, round out the top 5.
Jim Head says, I hate that. You always hate to lose, but especially when the other guy's running 563. Back to Dallas, our fall stop, the O'Reilly Nationals, presented by Castrol Syntec. Qualifying, Tony Schumacher, Joe Amato, under the lights. Schumacher 326.91 miles an hour backed up. That's a national record. Even though he had run 330 earlier, did not back it up for the record. This one, he did.
That baby can really fly at the top end of the track. Kenny Bernstein gone in round number 1. He lost to the Miller Lite car. They seemed to meet every time we turned around in the second half of the season. Eddie Hill against Doug Herbert. They love Eddie here in Texas. Watch him in the Pennzoil car in the far lane. A spectacular engine demolishing explosion for the Texas star Eddie Hill. He would be unhurt in this, although he really took quite a jolt. Ursi concerned, looking on. They can't figure out what went wrong. Take a look at it again in the far lane. I mean, this is total devastation for Eddie.
I think I'm fine. It knocked the wind out of me, and I hit the chutes, or something hit me so hard that it rattled me and knocked the wind out of me. And I must have hit the belts or something awful hard because I hurt several places, but I'm fine.
Gary Scelzi dejected after another first-round loss. This time it was Doug Coletta who sent Team Winston to the trailer.
Doug Coletta sent a lot of folks to the trailer this weekend. Joe Amato in round number 2 sent packing, thanks to that former sprint car champ. Tony Schumacher then took out Doug Coletta. Scott Coletta, who is driving Doug's car this weekend, would then meet Tony Schumacher in the finals. Schumacher still winless in his drag racing career. Could Scott help his cousin in the final? Not today, he can, and Tony Schumacher finally gets his first ever national championship win. He's leading the points and starting to pull away.
This is our 9th final for Team X. I'm so proud of the guys, man. What could be better beating these guys? They've been running great. You know, Connie's an old-time racer, knows the deal well. Dan had a handle on this track. I saw him out there. He was ahead of me. He must have either spun the tires or had a problem, but won the race. What we run?
Who cares? You got the points lead, you got the trophy.
We do. We just pulled another 20 points. It's the most important thing in the world. Got to say hi again to my beautiful wife at home. Missed this race. Missed the first win, but I know she's watching on TV.
What a day these guys had.
2 races to go, and it's starting to look like Tony Schumacher will be the heir apparent. Amato and Herbert have a mathematical shot, outside shot, Scelzi and Mike Dunn.
On to the Matco Super Nationals, Houston Raceway Park. Let's take a look at qualifying to start with. Remember Eddie Hill's problem last week? If you thought that was bad, well, as they say in Texas, you ain't seen nothing yet. Same basic explosion further down the racetrack. When's the last time you saw a top fuel car with no engine in it whatsoever? Eddie got the car safely stopped, but the concussion of that engine coming apart would be the end of the season for the Pennzoil driver.
Joe Amato in qualifying against Doug Coletta. Amato still harboring hopes of winning the championship. This was the last qualifying run, and he was not in. Well, he qualified, but then this happened at the end of the racetrack. A devastating accident. Joe would get out of the car and be okay, but his team now in the field would have to work all night long to bring out a backup car to race on Sunday. They meet up with Kenny Bernstein in round number 1,
Kick their butt.
and Kenny would take him out. Into the semifinals, Tony Schumacher still hanging around. Gary Scelzi still thinks he can be a 3-time Winston champ. Wins over Schumacher here and sets the national record at a blistering 4:48, and Gary Scelzi would advance to the championship round.
That record is 20 extra points in trying to close the gap on Schumacher. There's crew chief Alan Johnson looking in as he matched up in the final with Larry Dixon. Gary looking to get 20 points closer, but not today. Scelzi stole Dixon's national record, and Dixon gets a little revenge. He won the race, his second on the season. That's a big trophy, and A big hug from Miss Winston, Jackie.
He's hugging them both now.
With just one race left on the schedule, all Tony Schumacher had to do at the Auto Club NHRA Finals was qualify. And he did. But before we get to that, let's show you this from Top Fuel qualifying. Doug Herbert, far lane. Just watch. Wow. The snap-on car just disintegrates one right on the starting line. Doug obviously was unhurt, but watch again. I talked to crew chief Larry Frazier and asked him what went wrong, and he said, you know, we couldn't find any big enough pieces to figure that out.
Tony Schumacher, who had qualified for every race this season, one of the very few drivers to do that, would take on Mike Dunn in a side-by-side qualifying run. Dunn, the guy who had led the points most of the season, watched as Schumacher qualified, made the field, and with that run became your Winston champion.
Just by qualifying, Tony, you wrapped it up. The 1999 Winston Top Fuel Championship.
What a great day. You know, this has been one heck of a year for everybody. The best points battle I think NHRA Winston Drag Racing's ever seen. And for Exide and all the people that have helped us all year, it's going to be a great bottle of champagne. Hope I'll sleep it off tomorrow.
Schumacher, the only guy that really made a charge from Indianapolis on, a deserving champion. Pomona also hosts the Big Bud Shootout for top fuelers. Doug Coletta, the defending champ, against Gary Scelzi and Team Winston. At stake, $100,000. And the winner, Team Winston. Gary Scelzi gets it with a 459, over 320 miles an hour. Salvaged something on the season. You can buy a lot of champagne with $100 grand.
I was thinking they're going to have to buy a lot of dry cleaning with that $100 grand. Last Top Fuel race of the year, Doug Coletta, Mike Dunn. This wasn't a bad way to end a great season. Just watch. Would you know who won if I didn't tell you? By 0.08 of a second, Mike Dunn finishes where he started in the Pomona Raceway winner's circle. He wouldn't win the championship, but he did pick up the last trophy. Gary Scelzi, after a horrendous season, comes back to finish second. Joe Amato third. Doug Coletta rounding out that top five.